motor racing, where technology is all important, Nissan studied the Group A rulebook and came up with a car that stretched the regulations to the limits. A four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, twin-turbo, 6-cylinder, 24-valve, 640 horsepower missile.
Well, the car, I suppose, is the last evolution Group A car. We went from having Commodores and early model BMWs to the BMW M3 to the Sierra, now to this car. And Nissan have done a great job of homologating such a good car. The car is the most technical Group A car in the world. Four-wheel drive, four-wheel steered, twin-turbo. It's obviously pretty technical.
Of the day, it was not only the #1 race team in this part of the world, but it was arguably Nissan's best race team in this part of the world. And it's always a good sign when the Japanese don't want you to go to Japan and go racing against them. Because clearly at that time the GTRs were the best GTRs in the world.
And Kakimoto-san rang me, who's the boss of Motorsport in Japan. And he said, Fred-san, I believe you're coming to Fuji to race. I said, yes, we are. We've been invited. Not a good idea. and they didn't want us to come anywhere near them because our car would have blown the socks off them.
So on full boost, we could run about 1.8 or 1.9 bar, and that was almost 700 horsepower. And as a race car in a Touring Car Championship round, we'd run 1.2, 1.3 bar, and that roughly had 600 horsepower at that time. So where that's set out there now is the lowest four-wheel drive mode, and then if it rained, it clicked it all the way around, and that was full four-wheel drive. No wonder it was pretty wild in the wet.
0.8 seconds earlier in the week. And, this is where the GTR is so fast coming out of this corner of the cutting. They probably pick up 10 or 15 kilometres an hour on the two-wheel drive cars out of that corner.
Down towards the dipper now. Powers had her pretty quickly out of the Suncorp turn.
It's particularly impressive out of this corner too. Just on the brakes, back a gear and bang. Comes out of there like a missile.
Really hear the way the car puts its power to the road. Fastest split time so far, no surprises there. It's a 28.34. It's fastest by a mile.
You're on board, Mark Skaife, as close as you can get to the streets of Wellington and to the walls.
In the Nissan GTR, and there he goes.
In this era of technical one-upmanship between nations, it seems Nissan has out-perfected Ford's near-perfect Group A car. Japan's response to the Sierra, the Commodore and the BMW M3 is this gem: a four-wheel drive, four-wheel steer, twin-turbo, 6-cylinder, 24-valve rocket. Technology is the message, and Nissan has used the Group A rules to the max to create the ultimate touring car.
Well, the Sierra's got 550 horsepower, say, putting us through a 10-inch tyre on the rear. We've got 630 horsepower, a lot heavier, but we're putting us through four wheels.
You heard right, he said 630 brake horsepower. Using the most sophisticated milking methods, Nissan Motorsport is dragging massive horsepower from this 6-cylinder turbo. But normally, having this much grunt smouldering away under the bonnet would be of little use, as it would be wasted in wheel spin, ultimately killing the tyres on most Group A cars. That's why four-wheel drive technology was embraced. Distributing that much power through 4 rather than 2 wheels allows the use of radical horsepower. However, merely driving all 4 wheels at the same speed is undesirable. Controlling the prescribed amount of four-wheel drive is the critical factor. This onboard computer receives constant messages from 3 sources regarding the behaviour of the car. A G-force sensor measures longitudinal and lateral forces, therefore monitoring braking, acceleration and cornering loads. A tooth drive on the rear diff output shaft monitors rear wheel spin. And each wheel has a speed sensor and the information is logged by the brain. The brain deciphers the data and, according to the situation, commands a solenoid control in a device called an ETS pump. For example, if the rear wheels break traction, the ETS pump varies the amount of oil pressure to the transfer case, or put simply, gives the car more front-wheel drive. The transfer case clutch pack works on a similar principle to an automatic gearbox in your standard road car.
So basically how the system works is that when the rear wheels lose traction, directs drive to the front, we then have a four-wheel drive car and we can program that by our silicon chip. So the car has a situation where on fast corners where there are high Gs, the car works as basically a two-wheel drive car. When it's on a slow corner with low Gs, the car is a very much a four-wheel drive car. So out of slow corners it's great, around fast corners it's almost the same as a Commodore or a Sierra.
To complicate the issue, the brain can be programmed with silicon chips called EPROMs to react in different ways. Using data logging equipment, all this information can be recorded and used to achieve a better setup prior to the race. When the setup is right, the equipment is removed. This is just some of the information used. A test at Perth's Wanneroo Raceway reveals the variations in four-wheel drive pressure from the ETS pump. The forces on the car are plotted using half-G increments, and the actual speed of the individual wheels is recorded. Using the timescale along the bottom of the graph, this information can be cross-referenced and the car's track position can be pinpointed. Then if the Gibson team adjusts the car's suspension or alters the four-wheel drive settings, the information can be re-examined to decide if it worked or not. Once they've programmed the GTR to behave, the drivers have 3 other four-wheel drive control options. These are mode switches. If it rains, Richards or Skaife hits the appropriate switch and instantly they've got perfect four-wheel drive, overriding the brain's normal pressure variations. This is not your average touring car.
While Fred Gibson's team brought new meaning to speed and reliability, they also operated at the leading edge of technology, bringing new levels of computerisation and engineering to touring car racing.
When you've got 600 to 650 horsepower, to put its power onto the road, you need four-wheel drive. That's been the big thing that Nissan Japan designed into the car. And that's electronically controlled, and we can do the split between front and rear, 45, 90, 80, whatever you want to do. And then we can also have speed cuts in that, so it knocks four-wheel drive out as you sort of get to a circuit where you've got a fast sweepy corner. And then you go on the engine management system. We've got the most advanced engine management system for the car that controls the boost, the spark and the revs. So like all those things are adjustable within our program, and at each circuit, that's why the car takes a fair bit of dialing into a circuit sort of thing. So like when you put that whole package together, like 630 horsepower, engine management system, four-wheel drive, electronic controlled, and those things, it makes it a pretty complete race car.
That setting there, that's mode 3. We tried on mode 3 and it wasn't any better, was it?
So mode 2 is really the best of the 3 settings, was it?
Yeah, because it doesn't quite oversteer in the middle of the corner as much as it did before. So
if we leave it like that, then if you get more oversteer in the race, you can always go up to 3, if the tyre's going on, and you can certainly drop back if you get too much understeer.
The 1991 Nissan scorecard included a new record of 6 first and second place finishes, including the first 5 races consecutively. A tribute to the bulletproof reliability of the GTRs, which quickly became recognised as touring car racing's most sophisticated race weapon.
Can somebody go out and buy one of these cars, and if they can, what sort of price tag would they be looking at?
Well, in Japan, they have built, say, 7,000 of these cars in their basic form. Now, you say they've got to build 5,000. Well, Nissan Japan have built more than that, 7,000. Then they built a 500 Evolution. Well, the 500 Evolution car was sold in 2 days in Japan. All were gone, sold. Now, what Nissan Australia are doing now, doing an exercise now, are looking at evaluation of bringing 1 or 200 of these into the country. And I think that's a pretty positive step. And I'd say next year you'll be able to buy, probably about June next year, one of these a road car for about $90,000. So when you compare that with what you can buy, what something else costs, the same performance, it's going to be a cheap motor car.
The number 1 Nissan GTR and teammate Mark Skaife, the 91 season, is racing, and it's Mark Skaife and Win Percy, who just bounces out in between the Sierras and looks for third place as they come down to the left hand. A crowd absolutely beside itself. Well, I think that they'll be hoping for a 1-2 across the line. Form finish. The Nissan coming out of the last turn. The pits are on the right-hand side. The throttle is all the way to the floor, and Jimmy Richards coming down to take the checkered flag. So the ex-Kiwi will lead them across the line. Richards 1, Skaife 2, a 1-2 for Nissan in the opening round hostilities in the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Watch the Nissan, it gets off when Percy tries to go with it on the inside, and also a great start from Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra as they come beneath the Dunlop Bridge, and Richards away very smartly indeed. The racing is certainly close and spectacular as Skaife looms up. He's caught in behind this Sierra. Oh, Glenn Seaton getting the short back and sides. Bowles spent it. Checkered flag time, we believe. 1-2 at Simmons Plains for the Nissan GTR team as they take first and second in round number 2. But I think Jim is getting all over the tail now of Win Percy. May even dive to the inside here on the entrance to Cold Corner. Fairly close and just finds a little opening. Not much in it, let me tell you, but a beautiful pass there from Jimmy Richards.
So now we have a battle between cars 1 and 2. Can Jim Richards get past his junior teammate Mark Skaife?
But the bottom turn coming up, last turn now as they come out, headed towards the checkered flag and chalk up another 1-2 to Nissan. This time it's Mark Skaife who takes the victory. Second place will go to Jimmy Richards, and back about 12 or 14 seconds behind them, Tony Longhurst. Off. Richards, goodbye everyone. And look at Win Percy, an absolutely sensational start. He'll pick up probably fourth, I think, Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson, who gets a drop kick straight from Win Percy from behind. He'll come in about the middle of the field behind Peter Brock. There's the gap. This is David and Goliath at Lakeside. It's pretty close. Could be the last corner coming up as they come out, heading down towards the start-finishing line. Checkered flag is out, and across the line they go. And a great finish. Jimmy Richards in car number 1, the Nissan GTR. Racing Richards goes, and look at Skaife on the dirt. Trying to get a hold of it and pick up Seaton before the first turn, but he's muscled into third place. Percy goes back to fourth.
They're all producing pretty even performance in this early stage of the race, with only coming up to 12 minutes down.
This is all getting serious as Mark Skaife up on the inside of Glenn Seaton takes over second spot.
It looks like he may be penalised for
stop and go.
Just a stop-go.
Yeah, it's a stop-go penalty. No spanners coming out. The car just comes in, stops, and out again.
Jimmy Richards to come out of the last turn. Here he comes. And the 5th round at Winton goes to Jimmy Richards. Teammate Mark Skaife takes second. The back of the field, Jimmy Richards, they're ready to go racing in round number 6. What a view Jimmy has. The Shell team, the front row, they're racing, and John Bauer gets out smartly. Johnson picks up a quickie, and right up the inside comes Mark Skaife. Not on the down to the late corner under brakes. Skaife trying to get the car straight and get up the inside here of Johnny Bauer. Can he do it? Bauer's going to pull across. No, Skaife will get the run to the turn. So Mark Skaife parts the Shell team.
There's the ominous sign. The red, white and blue Nissan carving through the traffic.
Last corner comes up, round 6, and we're going to have a win for Tony Longhurst in the Benson & Hedges BMW. Second is going to be Jimmy Richards.
The visit to South Australia in the Malala circuit was a no-holds-barred contest. The Nissan team quickly showed that the Amaroo result was only a temporary interruption to their winning ways. Mark Skaife led the field home, with Richards providing the backup for Nissan's 6th 1-2 finish. In Queensland's winter sunshine, Richards was within reach of the championship at Lakeside Raceway. The increased pace of the opposition had the GTRs running faster than ever. However, an uncharacteristic bout of tyre troubles resulted in pit stops for both Skaife and Richards. With a strong finish for 3rd place, Richards clinched the driver's crown and Nissan's 2nd national title. While the opposition fell apart in the Oran Park Grand Final, Skaife posted his 3rd win of the championship to bring Nissan's tally to 7, while Sydney's Mark Gibbs gave the factory-built GIO Insurance GTR its championship debut with a fine 5th place finish. While Richards and Skaife carried all before them on the track, Fred Gibson was the guiding light behind the scenes. This moment will live forever in the history of Australian motorsport, with Nissan becoming the first Japanese manufacturer to win touring car racing's classic contest at Bathurst. After 2 decades of trying, the historic victory was a tribute not only to the dedication and talent of drivers Jim Richards and Mark Skaife, but also the technology of the 4-wheel drive Nissan GTR Sports Coupe, acknowledged as touring car racing's most sophisticated weapon. Having dominated the Australian Touring Car Championship in the GTR, Richards and Skaife went to Bathurst as hot favourites. 24-year-old Skaife was entrusted with the job of qualifying in the traditional one-lap dash for the top 10 grid positions.
This is where the GTR is so fast coming out of this corner of the cutting. They'll probably pick up 10 or 15 kilometres an hour on the 2-wheel drive cars out of that corner, carry it with them all the way across the top.
258 kilometres an hour up Mountain Straight for Mark Skaife.
Gosh, you could have picked up and carried 1 or 2 other competitors.
Down towards the dipper now.
Intense but cool, Skaife rewarded the faith of team boss Fred Gibson with the fastest ever lap by a touring car on the famed 6.2 kilometre Mount Panorama road course, with a stunning time of 2 minutes 12.63 seconds and a top speed of 293 kilometres per hour for pole position.
I think Jimmy and I will take a fair bit of beating from here.
Fred Gibson had assembled a dedicated crew to back his 2 factory-entered cars, the second to be driven by Drew Price and Gary Walden. A 3rd privately entered Nissan GTR, crewed by Mark Gibbs and Rowan Onslow, had made it an all-Nissan front row. Employing catch-us-if-you-can tactics from the start, the Nissan team set about outrunning Australia's best touring car teams in the 161-lap race, which has become more of a 1,000-kilometre sprint rather than an endurance event. The combination of Jim Richards, a winner at Bathurst on 3 previous occasions, and the young lion Skaife was a masterstroke. Both drivers knew they had a bulletproof package and were not worried by suggestions from the opposition that the GTR would be slowed by brake, transmission and tyre problems on the feared mountain course.
We sort of made a choice to use Yokohama E-compounds to start the race. The weather was a bit cool for those at the present. They started to grain a little bit, but as the heat came up and the oil got in the circuit, the tyre went very well. And I must thank Yokohama for doing a super job today for us, because we just kept putting tyres and every 35 laps in the car kept going around the same tyres.
To the contrary, the number 1 GTR ran faultlessly throughout, as the pressure mounted on rivals to match the front-running pace. The factory Commodore of Wynn Percy was in trouble early, while mountain master Peter Brock was a regular visitor to the pits. Tyre and engine troubles slowed the factory BMW attack, while the much-feared Ford Sierras driven by Gary Brabham, Dick Johnson and Glenn Seaton failed to live up to expectations. As always, the foundation of the Nissan success story was teamwork. Gibson's close-knit squad is unique in touring car racing. There is a genuine camaraderie and mutual respect that stamps the Gibson Motorsport Nissan GTR team as one of the best to ever conquer the Bathurst Mountain Classic. Gibson won this race as a driver way back in 1967. The slick pit stops and race strategy were under his direct control, as was the decision to transfer Skaife to the Price Wouldnt car for a late race charge that produced a new race lap record of 2 minutes 14.5 seconds.
This has been our team. This to me is a win for Skaife and I and Fred. There's no number one driver in our team, as you know, and Mark absolutely drove brilliantly. The car was perfect, so it's an equal win for both Mark and I and Fred, because without them I couldn't have done it.
The Nissan team effort has the enthusiastic support of Managing Director Leon Daphne, who took a close personal interest in the historic Bathurst triumph.
A lot of people say that the GTR is the best car, and that's certainly true, but I think it's a combination of the technology of Nissan Australia providing the GTR, Fred Gibson providing two excellent drivers, and a lot of hard work by the Fred Gibson Motorsport team, which has made all of us at Nissan Australia very, very proud.
As the local manufacturer with the longest official team involvement in Australian motorsport, Nissan has a racing heritage that is part of Bathurst folklore. 1966, and a new team arrives at Mount Panorama to demonstrate Datsun reliability.
It's fairly obvious that confidence was the reason for the long journey by Japanese drivers Kitamo and Takanashi. They've gone to the front in Class A, half a lap ahead of the Lawler Gaps Cortina 220 number 50.
25 years later, Nissan is still going strong at Bathurst, but now with the high-tech twin-turbocharged GTR, the car affectionately known as Godzilla. The Nissan Turbo era at Bathurst began in 1981, with the ungainly but impressively fast Bluebird. Who will forget George Fury's sensational lap of 2 minutes 13 seconds to take pole for the 1984 Mountain Classic? In 1986, Gary Scott debuted the Group A Skyline 6-cylinder turbo with another spectacular pole position. In 1987, victory came agonisingly close with the unforgettable Glenn Seaton in second place.
Oh, Glenn.
However, success continued to elude Nissan. The new GTSR Skyline was fast but ran headlong into a massive Ford Sierra Challenge. The Godzilla GTR made its debut in 1990 and 12 months later had taken its own special place in Bathurst history. The 1991 Bathurst victory was a fitting tribute to all that had gone before, with Richards and Skaife backed up by a superb third placing by privateers Gibbs and Onslow in a GTR built in the Gibson Motorsport workshops.
Going into today, it must have been frightening, the pressure on you, because everybody knew you were so fast. Everyone was expecting you to go out and do what you've done so far.
Yeah, there was lots of pressure, but the team's done a fantastic job this year. Not just today, they've done a good job all year, and the preparation of the cars has been fantastic.